Hey everybody, Mike Toy, Bonsai Boise. So it's mid-August now. Everything is growing, so I thought I'd give you a midsummer update. Let's take a look. Alright, so here's a look from all the way in the back here. We'll start on this side. So here's the pomegranate. See that it's flowering. Got some really bright ones in there. These pomegranates don't actually grow the fruit. I'm told that you need a pollinator of some type. Forget exactly how it works, but they do grow these bright red flowers, which is cool. So this pomegranate got sick there for a little while, and on closer inspection I realized it had aphids, so I sprayed the heck out of it with neem oil a couple times and got rid of them. Got a Ficus benjamina back there. I got some just random cuttings. I've been sort of cycling some of the smaller struggling plants up here because this seems to kick it into high gear. A couple of pomegranate cuttings. This one has a little flower going, I just noticed. That's cool for a first year cutting. Another cutting. So right there is a Ficus benjamina. This was my first bush to bonsai video that I did. If I can get in there and get a decent shot. Getting a shot's a little difficult with this guy in the way. Let me just move him. Anyways, that's the first bush to bonsai 1.0 that I did about 1.5 years ago. You see it's doing well. I've trimmed it up recently, wired it, kind of given it some shape. I'll do a full update on it shortly. There's another Ficus benjamina. This was just a cutting from some point. Got some cool movement. I've got a lot of Ficus right now. I'm looking to offload some later this year, but for now, got a lot of them. There's olive. This hasn't really grown much. I bought it in April of 2022, so about 1.5 years ago, and it's only grown about from here to there. A little bit of new growth there, and some new growth there, back there. Other than that, not much at all. 2 little leaf Ficus, another pomegranate. This is a windswept bonsai. I'm actually going to pull this out. We can take a closer look real quick. Okay, so here's a closer look at this. I've had this for about 5 years or so, give or take. And I've been trying to train it into kind of a windswept look. It's coming along. I'm actually fairly happy with it. It's grown a lot. It just exploded in growth this year. I gave it a good hard trim maybe a month or so ago, and it's already getting to a point where it's kind of looking like it needs a trim again. Maybe not quite, but we're getting there. You see this big wound. I did a cut there maybe 1 year or so ago. Put a little bit of cut paste on there. I'm not sure if I like the cut paste I've been using. It leaves this like black, like a burned sort of look, whereas that cheap glue, just that school glue I used, never did that. So I might just go back to that. Anyway, that's a look at the windswept Ficus benjamina. Let's go look at some more. Okay, so that was a look at the windswept. Some others down here, just some cuttings and random things that I've been working on. Nothing really worth noting. Here's the apple tree that I went and dug up earlier this summer. You see it lived and has really exploded in growth since then. I have found aphids on it a few times. I spray down real good, get rid of them, they come back, do it again. It's got some growth down here too. I haven't trimmed it at all since I brought it home and repotted it. I've just been letting it grow, regain its health. Here's a willow pre-bonsai. Put a pin in that because I've got a few of these that I'll talk about in a few minutes when we get there. Some Ficus with a small root over rock, tiger bark Ficus I've been working on. Some of the cuttings that I've had for a few years are getting to a point where I can start training them. So I'm starting to wire up a lot of them just to get them going. They're nothing brag-worthy or anything yet, but you know, gotta start somewhere. These are some Amur maple starters just from this year. Oddly enough, I bought seeds. I bought some Shantung maple seeds, some Zelkova seeds, a couple others. None of the seeds that I bought online gave any fruit at all. None of them sprouted. But a handful of Amur maple seeds that I picked up off the ground, those did. So what do you know? Tiger bark ficus. Had this for about 5 or 6 years. This one I've just been doing as kind of a, I guess you could call it a formal upright. Just been letting it really branch out. Letting it ramify. Branch out again, ramify. Look at the hummingbird right there. See it? Look at that. It's getting from the flowers on the pomegranate. Super cool. Look, it landed right there. How cool is that? Hi. See you later. Well, that was super cool. I couldn't have staged that if I tried. Well, I completely lost track of where I was going there when the hummingbird came up. But anyways, I'm glad I got that on camera, and I'm glad you got to see it. Anywho, where was I? Here's something. This was just a stump of a cutting, Ficus benjamina. Just a weird stump. I thought, I'm just going to stick it in a pot. Stuck it in a pot. Sprouted. Sprouted one real long one, so I sort of twirled it up like that. I don't know what the heck I'm doing with it. We'll see. Sometimes I just start them and just kind of see where it goes. Here's my Banyan style Schefflera. We call him Sheffy. Little spider webs there. It's coming along. He had a little bit of a rough start. Got some leaf burn in the beginning of the year, and it took him a little while to regrow some leaves, but finally did. So he's coming along. Tiger bark ficus. Tiny little pomegranate back there. Okay, so I'm experiencing something weird with some Ficus benjamina, and I would love some feedback and opinions or whatever you guys think. As you can see, I've got lots of Ficus benjamina. A lot of these are just fusions, just a bunch of cuttings that I taped together to fuse together. But some of them, for whatever reason, have this like yellowing effect going, which to me usually indicates overwatering. But, and there's these others that have, you know, dark green. Very healthy looking. So I don't know exactly what else could cause it other than overwatering. I'm sure something, but if you have any opinions on that or any experience, would love to hear it. Here's a boxwood. I did a video on this just a few weeks ago. As you can see, bounced back real well. It's got new growth all over it. New buds popping out everywhere. Still got that little bald spot in the middle, but we'll work on that. New growth all over it, so it survived the hack job I gave it. So that's good. Some more Ficus benjamina. These are, like I said, just some fusions, just a bunch of cuttings that I fused together. One of my S-shaped tiger bark ficus. We call him, her, I should say, June. And here's her. Okay, my apologies. My phone overheated while I was taking video. And sorry if the audio sounds different, but I think it's my microphone that's making it overheat. So I'm trying this without the microphone. So bear with me, please. So anyways, where was I? This is June. My little S-shaped tiger bark ficus coming along. This is Benny, so together, of course, Benny and June. I just trimmed them both up quite a bit, but they had leafed out a lot, so gave them a good trim. Got some sacrificial branches down at the bottom of the trunk just to help thicken up that trunk base a little bit. kind of wish this one would do the same, but that's okay. My ginseng ficus. I've done a few videos on this in the past. It's always been in this pot ever since I first repotted it like 5 years ago or so. It's just a low maintenance, cool little tree. I like it. So we'll let him be. One of my gardenias, not doing great, but staying alive. Some 2 little leaf ficus cuttings, more cuttings. This one, by the way, the one that's been yellowing real bad, this is the first ficus fusion. I've done several videos on it. Probably about time I do another one to update. Get a little teaser here though. You see, it's definitely fusing. We're probably at a point now where I should start thinking structurally about it, because I haven't this whole time. I've just let it grow, hack it back, let it grow, hack it back, just to help it fuse. But it's starting to fuse now, so I should start thinking about it structurally. It's kind of like a raft style Schefflera. It's not done great. I just defoliated it recently. Sort of a Hail Mary, because it wasn't really growing at all. It was just staying. So it's got great potential. It's my oldest Schefflera. Started as an office plant, and when we moved offices, someone just gave it to me. Got potential. Just not sure if I love its style or its pot or anything right now. So more to come on that. We're getting into some cutting territory, but here's just a small ficus benjamina that I've been working on. I've had it in this really small pot. Just gave it a trim and some wiring. Just sort of a slender, elegant looking little thing. At least that's the goal. Trying to fuse some willows. Put a bunch of them in there. Wired it up. Bent it around, gave it some movement. Looking pretty hairy. Right time for something. Lemon tree. Just put it in that big pot just to hopefully let it take off. These are all Honeycrisp apple seedlings. Got about 5 of them. So about 20 years from now, I'll be growing my own apples. Save $1.50 at the store each time. Haha. Speaking of ficus benjamina, I hate to harp on them because I have so many, but the thing is, I'm just doing different things with each one. I try a lot of different experiments and styles, and and if they have character, then I just keep it going. Here's a willow leaf ficus. I've never done a video on this. Never really done much to it. Got some good potential though. Got some weird little arms coming out of there. It's gonna need something before it's in real good bonsai shape, but good potential. Here is a willow leaf ficus that I've done a few videos on. It's doing real good this year. Got all that growth. This time last year it was struggling hard, and I did a repot and it bounced back, and it's been going well ever since. So that's my main willow leaf ficus. Most of the rest are cuttings, except this one. I did buy this as sort of raw nursery stock, and I've been working on it as a clump style willow leaf ficus. So it's still pretty young and raw, but potential, lots of potential. Potential is what I look for. I've yet to ever just buy a bonsai tree. That is a bonsai tree. I've always bought something with potential to be a bonsai tree, and then I do my own little thing to it. Amur maple, which has not been doing great. It actually started off doing real good. It grew, then it fell off the bench. A couple of branches broke off. I trimmed off the broken branches, and Amur maples really don't like being trimmed, in my experience. They just never have. None of them ever have. They get real weird when you trim them up. They just sort of stop growing for the rest of the year. So you have to be strategic about your timing. It's a big old Schefflera group that I put together a couple years ago. Not much to talk about there. Another Schefflera, sort of clump style. Here's one I did a video on maybe a month or two ago. It's doing well. I defoliated it recently. One last willow leaf ficus, but I just did a video on it a couple weeks ago, so I thought I'd give you an update on it. It's doing great. Loving life. Get this guy out of the way. I call this guy Thor. This is one of my Costco ginseng ficuses. He got a little unhappy there for a while, and he sort of bounced back. Could use a trim, probably repot at some point. My second bush to bonsai. Just did a video on this last week, I think it was. And here's my Virginia creeper. I very roughly pruned it a couple of months ago and haven't really done anything with it since, but it's got this gnarly root, kind of above ground root. I don't even know what to call it. But anyways, it looks cool, especially in fall and in winter when you can see its structure. But this year I've been letting it grow out. This is some kind of topiary. Someone at a local nursery gave me a couple of these recently. Very thankful for that. Not sure what I'm doing with it yet. Okay, almost time for the second weirdism that I need opinions on, but first let's look at this. So this is my juniper. I always called it my Mr. Miyagi tree. Kind of a cascading juniper. It's in rough shape, but it's healthy for the most part. As you can see, it's just bushed out. I haven't trimmed it at all, and it needs it bad. But as you can see, it has some dieback in some kind of key areas, which sort of sucks. And what's weird about this too is that it's got dieback and then new growth above the dieback. Found that kind of odd. But that's not the weirdism that I was going to talk about. The weirdism I was going to talk about are some of my Siberian elms. In particular, this forest grouping, more than the others, but the others as well. This year, at a couple of points, it started getting these yellow leaves with brown spots. And at one point, all of it turned that way. The whole thing. I was freaking out. I looked up Dutch elm disease. It's not quite the same. So it's not Dutch elm disease. Come to find out, Siberian elms are actually more resistant to Dutch elm disease than most other elms, so that's good. But I still can't figure out what it is. So every time I see them, I just sort of pluck them off. And after I pluck them off, after a little while, it just recovers and some new growth appears. And that's what's happening now. So that's good. Still kind of freaks me out every time though. So here's the mother tree that all the Siberian elm cuttings have come from. You can see some of those yellow ones I'm talking about in there. Some of it's just normal, it just happens on any tree, but I mean they were all covered. One current theory is, as you can see, I live next to a big field full of alfalfa. I wonder if some type of pesticide or insecticide has been sprayed and it just blows over here and it has a weird effect on the elms. I don't know. Anyways, nothing to get too alarmed with, because it bounces back, but it freaks me out. And they have not grown with the same vigor this year that they normally do. So if you know what that might be, would love to hear it. Here's just a whole bunch of starters and cuttings. Ficus, tiger bark ficus, two little leaf ficus, willow leaf ficus, ginseng ficus, Siberian elm. Oh, that's the other weird thing. So here's the Siberian elm. Oops, thought I saw one that was something else. This one was unaffected. It didn't get any of the yellow leaves. Nor did this one. So some did and some didn't. I don't know how to explain it. Back there is a bay willow. Had that about 5 or 6 years now. Some willow starters. Little cascading Ficus benjamina. This is one of those mimosas. Not very pretty at the moment, but it's alive. Everything's in kind of a weird order on this bench right now because we had a storm the other day, so I had to sort of bunch it all together so it didn't blow all over the place. My dwarf Alberta spruce, doing well. Bounced back real well this year. I'm just letting it grow. Haven't trimmed it or wired it or anything. Just letting it grow and regain its health. For anybody who hasn't seen some of my prior videos, all of my trees experienced kind of a rough year last year as we were had to cram into a little apartment for a season, and they all had to fit on this little north-facing patio. So I lost a lot of trees, and the ones that lived didn't do well. So I'm just sort of letting them regain some health this year. Honey locust. Just a common honey locust. Privet. Did a video on this a few months ago, sort of late winter. Move this guy out of the way for a second. Here's the other privet that I did a video on at the same time. I have two. Some podocarpus. I have a few podocarpus. I bought two big, like 3 feet podocarpuses. Took some cuttings. The two big ones died. All the cuttings lived. How do you like that? Green ash. Did a video on this a few months ago, right? Yeah, earlier summer. Twin trunk green ash, I'd call it. It has also had a history of reacting weirdly to being pruned. Usually I can prune it once, it sort of grows back a little, and then just stops. Doesn't like being pruned too often. This is what I call my work bonsai. This is a Ficus benjamina. I've been working on this, on the structure of this thing for a long time. Can't get it to a point that I'm real happy with, so I've wired the heck out of it. We'll see how it goes. Here's another tree that's experiencing some yellow leaves. It's been like this almost all year. This is a silver maple compared to, sorry, my sprinkler hose here is like right in the way. Compare this color to that. That is a silver maple back there. Green, yellow, green, yellow. Not sure what is causing it. Overwatering, underwatering, I have no idea. Here's my other Amur maple. You can see it is also very yellow. But its older growth leaves on the inside are dark green. Its new growth is yellow. Someone said iron deficiency. I've fertilized my trees a few times this year, so I don't know if that's really it. Who knows? This is a weeping willow that Eric at Dreaming Green Nursery sent me from, I believe he's in upstate New York, if I remember correctly. So thanks again, Eric, for that. It's doing great. It's loving life, starting to weep. Here's just a bunch of corkscrew willow cuttings. I didn't tape them together to fuse or anything. I just stuck a bunch of them in there just to see what would happen. So we'll see. My Shantung maple, my oldest tree, my favorite tree. It was also affected by whatever it is that affected everything else this year. But it is starting to bounce back. You can see some new growth here. So it is bouncing back, but man, it had me scared. This thing has survived a lot. Would have been a shame to lose it to this mystery thing going on. Anyways, that's my Shantung maple. Lots of new growth. It loves to back bud way down here on the trunk for some weird reason. But I do love that old fissured look. Here's that Amur maple again. You can see it's got some burnt tips and, you know, semi-normal stuff, but it's this weird yellowing that I don't know. And then the new growth is the red growth, so who the heck knows? That's a green ash cutting, by the way, as is that. See this, the thickness of that? Came off of that right there. So here's a whole bunch of willow cuttings. Why do I have so many willow cuttings? Well, the nursery here in town that I got that topiary from also had some willows. And I just decided to make some cuttings out of a lot of them and begin the bonsai journey on a lot more. Here's another little cluster. I don't even know what I'm doing with these yet. Sometimes I just do stuff like this and we'll just see what happens over time. Maybe some of them will fuse together, maybe it'll be a clump style, maybe they'll all die. I have no idea. We'll see. Corkscrew willows, by the way. Real quick on this silver maple, it's kind of bipolar. You see a difference here in color. These are a little wilty looking and weird. These are nice and green and healthy. Not sure what the difference is. But on this tree, I've been going at it from a hedge pruning method, not a clip and grow. If I can get back here to give it a better shot. So I just let it grow out, hack it back. Let it grow out, hack it back. Whatever happens on the inside, happens. As you can see, there's like some dead leaves and stuff in there. And we've got branches where I'm not going to want them. Sorry, it's really hard to get a shot in there. But this is definitely the method to do if you want to thicken up a trunk. So here's one of the willows. This is one of the willows I got from that nursery here in town. It's way too tall, but I'm just letting it sort of back bud before I hack any of this stuff off. Got some great potential. Yeah. Honeysuckle. I just trimmed this up recently so it doesn't have much foliage on it, but it's got this gnarly looking bark, which I always thought was cool. Eventually, probably this winter or early spring, I'm gonna cut this part off. I believe this is all dead up here. So that's the honeysuckle. Here's my Costco crabapple. I did a video on this a month or two ago where I gave it a trim. Since then, it has grown out again quite a bit, and I hacked it back a second time. And now you can see it again has some new growth here, if I can get it. Yeah, got some new growth again. So that's good to see. Nice and healthy. Great root base. My blueberries are not doing great. This is one that I got out of my buddy Garav's yard. It's blooming a little, but not much, and you know, that's pretty pathetic. This is the other one that I had some old growth that just died off, died all the way back. Luckily, I had been letting these two suckers go. Thank goodness, because that's all that's left now. Probably gonna have to repot it. It's been in this soil in this giant plastic pot for like 6 years. Here's another one of the willows that I got from that nursery here in town. Great potential. One of the cuttings. Here are some more willow cuttings. I don't expect them all to live. I'd be happy if some of them did. Speaking of corkscrew willow, here it is. This is the main one. Did an update on this a month or so ago. I wired this branch to come out more. It was kind of going straight up. I thought it needed a branch going off to the right side. I'm glad I did. Next spring it's going to need some root work. I've never really given it much root work. I've just sort of up potted it several times. But we're at a point now where it's like, yeah, I just think it needs some rework. So that is the corkscrew willow. Let's take a look here at the lilac. This is called a presidential Grevy lilac. I've been letting it grow in this big pot for a few years. This will be a bonsai someday. Maybe even just like a landscape bonsai. I don't know yet. But to my surprise, just recently I noticed it's got some new growth. I've never seen this thing produce new growth this late in the year ever since I've had it. So that's a good sign. What I really like about it is the root base here, just the bottom of the trunk. It's not perfect. You see some roots overlap, but that's okay. I don't mind some imperfections. Still got a lot of cool potential there, a lot to work with. So we'll see what we do with that someday. Not sure what that's about. Don't like that. Anyway. So that's it. That's the bonsai update for midsummer in mid-August 2023. If you have any experience on some of those issues, like the yellow leaves with brown spots on the elm, would love to hear about it. If you have any experience where some ficus turn yellow and some are dark green, would love to hear about it. Or if you just have an opinion, weigh in. Would love to hear about it. In the meantime, please like and subscribe, and thank you for watching. Have a good rest of your day.